All right.
All right. Back for another one. What is this? Number 5.
This is number
This is Mambo number 5.
6 if you include the live one to start.
Getting there.
Yeah, so we're doing 5 now, which was last week, which is mental health. And then this is 6.
Cool. Let's do it.
I'm not surviving.
The
But
what?
to listen to Garth for how many hours
Garth
now?
listened to our episode on hydration and now he's just like downing.
Dude. So Rocktopia is actually want another coffee. I'm like, dude, I don't think I can have another.
He's had like 10 at this point.
I sat at Roller Motors here.
That's why it was like, happy Thursday when I arrived. I'm like, relax, Garth.
So apparently I don't process caffeine, but I think today it's like, you've got to do something with this. You also feeling good? Benzo,
Yep.
you good?
Feeling good. Amazing. Went for a run this morning, weighted vest. 15 kilo weighted vest.
15. Did you add a plate?
I
Or have you
added
got
2.5 and a 2.5.
just a normal 2.5, like added, or
Yeah,
like
in
a
there.
specialized plate?
No. Just 2.5
slipped
plate.
it in.
Yeah.
I call that like a sympathy run for all the fat people out there. You're like,
That's exactly
What
what I
life-
was doing.
No,
I was
but-
doing it for the fat people.
yeah,
It's
you're
true.
like, I now feel your pain. I can identify better with you.
Dude, that's exactly.
I do identify as fat actually.
No, listen here. So no jokes aside. That's exactly what I did last week. So last Thursday and the previous Thursday, because I'm only training 3 times a week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I didn't train today, so I'm missing a day.
Is that because you want to be like a fat person or
No.
you just okay, you
I met Justin. So I got to Justin to train, and he's like, "You want to train?" I'm like, "No."
no on
Okay,
breakfast.
cool. Let's have breakfast. So I had a Justin breakfast. Anyway, sidetracking. The weighted vest thing is exactly what guys should do every now and then, especially guys that are a bit fitter, to feel how cuck it is to train overweight. I mean, some guys are 30 kgs overweight. We put on a weighted vest 10 kgs. You try to do a handstand push-up or a pull-up or a
200-meter
run.
run. Yeah.
or whatever it is, and it feels terrible. So I can definitely feel that. If you want to feel what that feels like, go do that. Go do a 5K run with a 10 kg vest. Yeah,
It's hard.
yeah, ankles, feet,
Yeah.
everything hurts.
Prevention, guys, prevention.
Prevention.
Yeah. Okay, so what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about
Training.
training.
Today's training.
So Neil, take us through
How you move your body.
what we're going to focus on with training. So we were obviously chatting about just what we're going to talk about, but take us through a couple of ideas so we can obviously hit on this topic.
Also, we'd start off with a little bit of training history from each of us, just going through how we got into training, how it all started, the origin stories.
So let's start with you. Give us your... Actually, who's got the best profile? I'm boring. I'll go first.
Go for it.
Okay. All right. How far back do we go?
Day 1 in the gym. The first time you touched a weight.
First time I went to gym. Okay. So it's actually a little bit... I'll not talk for too long because it's going to be boring. So I must actually take my hat off to my older butt. So I was doing karate as a probably 14 to 16-year-old, around there. And he's 3 years older, so he was in his later years, got his car license already. So like driving us then, so I would go to karate, he would gym next door in Kraaifontein there. So it was like a little gym that we went to. And he was just like, I don't want to gym anymore in the morning, come with me and come train. So he would open up actually this little gym, and we had keys to it, and it was like our own little free time, and we just had full reign to the gym. It was cuck early. It was like 5:30 in the morning, or maybe even 5 o'clock. So he'd wake me up, hated it, but then he would then drop me off at school, or would shower there, go drop off at school, then he would go to work. So it was actually quite a cool little setup. So that was my into the gym vibe, and he was a proper gym bunny, like back in the day, proper. He's got quite a good, like he's got a natural six-pack. He's like that guy that's got the genes from birth. He's just like, if he just eats well or doesn't even eat well. Now he's a proper UK beer belly. So I tease him about his little paunch that he's got. But he's got some health issues. Did he reach out to you, actually?
No.
Not yet?
No.
Okay, so he's going to reach out to you soon because he's got all of his stuff, yeah. Yeah, so that's my start off in the gym. And then we just butted it out for a couple of years. So I think from like 14 to then 17. And then I went into more like rugby training. So then you're like training to get stronger, training to get bigger at school. So then it was like just gym butting stuff. I never really trained with someone. I always just kind of like did my own thing just because just hated being like, I don't know, like waiting for the gym rack, waiting for the squat rack, waiting for the bench. So I just like slip in, slip out. And then that was rugby days, just in a nutshell. Then it was injuries, injuries, injuries. It was like rehab constantly. And then it was CrossFit scene for then like however many years this is now. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell. I think if I hit the only thing I could have done, I think, better was do CrossFit earlier. So like a proper functional fitness training, but not to the level of what I hit it hard when I started CrossFit, I think. I think for me it was like had the gym strength kind of background. Then like the CrossFit thing was quite cool because then it's like, oh, I can do this. Oh, I can do handstands. Oh, I can do muscle ups for the first time. Hit it hard, hit it hard, hit it hard, and not really focus on what I was smashing my body through because CrossFit's fine to do. You know, like everyone's fine and it's the healthy way or whatever it is. But I think deep down inside, I was just smashing workouts too much and then not focusing like what we're doing in the program now, like hips, shoulders, rotation, things like that. So I think that's my downfall, I think. But yeah, that's my short and sweet history. Boring.
Well, it's very boring. I'm so sorry you guys had to listen to that. Here's some more boring news. My sad story.
Okay, go with your sad story.
Okay, so I started training when I was about 12. Out of no other reason than I did identify as a fat person, and I was a fat person. So I was a very heavy child.
Do you have photos of this heaviness?
I do.
Okay, so I'm gonna definitely get to
Okay.
to slip in some stuff. What I'll do is I'll get some photos and we'll just slot in some stuff
Okay,
here of our like training
fine.
background.
Fine. So yeah, my dad had these two like dumbbells, 5 kilo dumbbells. You know, the round one looks like a dog bone. Like it's just a
Yeah.
piece of metal. Yeah. So I used to like gym on my own with these things. So I just decided like I didn't want to be fat anymore. Started running, started doing push-ups and whatever I could. Had no idea what I was doing. My dad kind of saw that I was trying to do something with my life and bought me some more weights and a little bench and whatever. And I got into it. By the time I was about 15, 16, I was like ripped and had a lot of female attention. So kind of stuck with it for that. Things changed dramatically for me. So then I was highly motivated. So continued on my workouts, but it's just in my garage on my own. I never had a training partner or whatever. And then my brother-in-law got involved. He was dating my sister at the time, good friend, just the best guy I've ever known. He got involved and he started pushing me and saying he's a little bit older, a little bit stronger, always leaner than me. So like he was always going like, all right, let's do this. So we started training together and then kind of figured out the brotherhood of training, if I can call it that. The iron sharpens iron and building deeper friendships because you're kind of like in the trenches together. Then he left when my sister and him left school. They were older than me before I did, so I was sort of home alone, carried on training on my own. And I moved to Durban and for the first time saw a Virgin Active because I grew up in a very rural town, very rural, like 2 kilometers long, literally. So you
3
can't,
cows and 5 people,
and I was all 5 of those people at that stage. I knew 4 fat people, and I was all of them. So carried on training, moved to Durban, saw Virgin Active, got very stuck into the training side of things. And then I moved to Stellenbosch to study, and for the first time in my life was exposed to powerlifting. And at that point, I was quite strong for my body weight and got competitive. Just took it super seriously. Won SA champs multiple times. Went to world champs in Poland. Got destroyed. Came 8th, I think, at world champs. And then I just got really bored with powerlifting and realized there's nothing more for me there. I knew that guys were always going to be better than me, so decided to taper back and found CrossFit. Stumbled on your box, the first CrossFit gym I looked at and liked it, and so I stayed. And it's kind of all I've done.
And then it got lank boring.
Yeah.
So your powerlifting days were your best days, and then we hung out and
just slipped.
I'll actually try to get some of the comps. What's the comp we did together? I think we came second or third. Did we come third or second?
We did a couple together actually. We came. Oh, you remember Chris Seymour's comp?
Battle of the Beasts.
Battle of the Beasts, bro. Bro, no one knew who we were. They were like, Garth hadn't been training for like 5 years at that point. He was like, John, do it with me. I was like, okay. And I had been training and we just dominated.
So
like,
you were
what's
fitter than me,
going
I think,
on?
at the time. But then why I'm laughing is because of that worm, dude. Yes. I think I've told
So
you the story. Have you?
Yeah,
let's just tell the story quickly. So we had this worm workout where it's basically a long sandbag. So we're sharing it. It's on my shoulder and on Gar's shoulder. And there's a heavy side and a light side, unbeknownst to me. And how it should work in these kind of workouts is while you're doing this workout with this worm is halfway through, or you try and share the load equally. So you're swapping the heavy side and the light side. I had no idea that I had the heavy side. Garth knew I had the heavy side. And I just did the whole workout with the heavy side. And I couldn't understand why my back.
And the issue
My
is that
back.
the shorter person should be at the front. I think we've done this before as well, where
Yeah.
the shorter person in the front, because the back person, the load just pushes you forward. So I'm at the back on the light side, and you just in front of me, dying. But you're
Dying.
fitter than me, so I'm
I
like,
died.
I'm just gonna let you go. Like you're gonna just keep getting crushed. I'm gonna get through the workout fine, and you're just gonna suffer, dude. I think you lay down with your back afterwards. I was just enjoying every
Alan
moment
Foley
of it.
came and gave me a hug, actually, lying there. He could see I was in need.
I want to try and find some footage of that. Oh, it's hilarious.
That was a cool competition, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
I forgot about that because, I mean, it was AJ and Alan, I think, who won it, and then Justin, and he had a training partner, some like
I
also
think someone
serious
jammed
athlete.
with Ivor.
Ivor-
Hayward was with somebody.
was with-
It was AJ.
Yeah, AJ, and
Yeah.
then Justin and
Alan.
were together. So they
Yeah.
were like big names at the time.
Yeah.
They were like, obviously, they
And
were
then
like
we came in
games
and,
level.
gave a
And
few
then we
guys
gave
a
it,
run
and
for
the
their
Oaks
money.
were like, holy smokes. I enjoyed that competition. Yeah. Good times.
Just two things that I don't want to forget there. So just before we go over to Neil's thing. So you mentioned you, the fat kid, at a younger age there, as like a teenager, realizing that, oh shit, I'm a little bit chubster.
No, not a little bit. But it didn't
Yeah.
fit in the mirror.
And then what happens is that you start to realize your buddies and chicks and you smell funny and you're just trying to fix all these little things.
Yeah.
So I really want to touch on that with training. So if we go back onto the topics, just remember, let's talk about that. The other thing that you said was that iron sharpens iron, that whole thing of like, you got to get a training buddy. So when I mentioned like my butt taking me to the gym and starting that, he's guaranteed the person that like drove me to like do well and push hard and do things properly. Like he's a very, like you do things properly. Like we do woodwork sometimes together when he's here, we'll fix something. And he's so slow. He's measuring. Fix, screw, no, take it out. Like it's perfect. And it was like that with our training as well. It's like you got to do your reps properly. Don't bring the dumbbell down to here. Bring it to there. You know, like what you do with me as well. Like you can obviously
a
see
little bit
where
of guidance. Yeah, I
you, like
understand.
even to this day, you're still guiding me through movements, and I'm not shy to ask even. And I think that's what guys need to also do is like try and link yourself up with someone that you see does a bit of perfection, because you know that, like I know I can probably do it properly, but I'm not thinking about it or I'm not seeing it, whatever. So you need to have that person there. So I think let's make sure those two topics we don't slip off, because I think there's quite a bit of
Agreed.
stuff to add on there. All right,
Let's go
let's
with
hear
Neil.
yours, bro.
Yeah, well, I suppose from a young age, it was always influenced by like physical culture. So whether it was a ninja movie or a Rambo or a Rocky, like that always sent you into like me and my cousins are the same age. We like bang out some push-ups to do whatever. So it was always that encouragement. And then when I got probably around 16, I had one of those old home gym trainer things that were called like on a pulley system. It was called a gym trim or something like that. So it was like this bench that would slide and would have different angles that would go up, and you could do different exercises, like this poster of this chick and the dude doing different little things. I think Francois Pina, not that poster, Ben. Keep it exercise.
So you know when you have
pictures.
that thing in your room, you got posters on your wall. So what poster
Mine was
version?
in the garage. This wasn't in the room, by the way. This was in the garage. And I think Francois Pina actually like redid it a few years later, and he had a different thing on Verymark. But it was called the gym trim, and yeah, you do some stuff and whatever. And that's where it sort of started. Then also I had a set of like dumbbells, and we'd do some stuff, and before school some push-ups, and then go for a run or whatever. And then got into a gym, I think when I was around 17, and like had a cousin who was doing something, and then I went with him a few times, and then sort of found my way, and then actually ended up getting some coaching and training from an older guy who had like sons who were bodybuilders, and he showed me a lot of like basics, and I trained with him for a long while. And then from there, I started training some of my high school friends, and we sort of trained together in the gym and continued that. And then, yeah, kind of lived more the bodybuilding life from like the 20s, mixed with a little bit of sport in between here and there. And yeah, purely like the aesthetics side of things, like pushing that vibe. And then only later in life, I mean, when I got to probably late 20s, did I actually start doing some more functional training. We ended up training at a gym called 360, and that's where I sort of did the first fittest in Cape Town and found CrossFit. And then, yeah, from there, switched more completely over towards sort of CrossFit training towards that orientation. And yeah, pretty much been doing that ever since. Obviously, these are from the competition floor. And then, yeah, recently have changed it up a little bit to go back more to a little bit more bodybuilding, dropping sort of the high intensity, heavy loads just to keep myself strong going forward. Sure, that's the story.
Cool beans.
I think that's a better story.
Yeah.
I kept it short and sweet. You
yeah.
guys dragged it out. Like, I didn't want the tears of when I was fat or.
Were you a bit overweight or you always? No, you were always in good shape, eh?
No, I was more skinny. So I
Okay.
think, like, when I
so
walked
you
into the gym, I was probably like 70 odd kilos or something.
Okay, so there's always like a little bit of a picture. So I want to just paint like a picture then for, I don't know, this podcast might go out, I hopefully go out to the audience of maybe like a younger generation coming through now, because I think obviously there's no kind of goal setting, I think, for younger kids. So like you start seeing younger kids at a school like this, you see the guys obviously in a mindset of training or pushing, or like we walk through the gym now and it's like they can obviously maybe see like, okay, I've got some cool guys around me maybe. But I think there's a lot of guys, like in your case, if you rocked up at the gym, like you're quite tall, lean, like I compare you to Luca. So I had a conversation with Luca at the gym, and he's like, he got on the scale. He's quite a big guy, and he's 83 kilograms. That's what I weigh. I'm like, dude, you need to put on more muscle mass. Like for your size, for the opportunity that your body's got, you need to be like 10 kgs heavier. You need to be 10 kgs more muscle mass. So he's got a cool goal. And then obviously your goal of losing weight at that age, whatever it is. And then I think for me, it was more just sports like orientated. So I think let's go through, because now we're going to touch on like the topics that you've brought for us to go through is like, what would we have each? So you've got like a bit of a change in your like past, like the fat kid to the powerlifting. Yours is the skinny kid to the bodybuilding, maybe transition. I've got the
into functional.
I just was normal, I think, maybe small. I was a small dude. So I was like playing flank, but then they're like, you too small to play flank. So I'm like, okay, cool, I'll play center. You too small to play center. I'm like, okay, cool, let me just change my direction of like sport to scrummy. But then I got like I was a defensive kind of scrummy. So they would bring me into the bigger games for a defense game, not a quick game. Because there was another scrummy that would just obviously be lighter than me, smaller than me with some good skills. They'd play that quick game. So I think let's go through each of our little, what's the topic? We'd maybe talk about that, like what we would change.
Well, it's just, if you could do it over again, are there things you would do differently, etc., etc. Yeah.
Should we just go in order of how we gave our history? Should I start?
Yeah,
okay. So I think for me, I think the way that I started from like the karate when I went into like the just gym training with my butt was fine. Like I think that's a nice direction, but I think obviously kids these days should use social media a little bit more and maybe Instagram profiles or whatever it is, find something that you quite like. But what I would do definitely is follow. So I've got this thing I follow. It's called Back Pain Aid. It's one of the things that I think I share with you. There's all the little back pain things that I share with you, all the little hip rotation things that you never look at.
Try to make me feel sorry for you.
Yeah,
you never do.
I'm like, dude, this is what I should be doing. No, so I've learned just over time now with my history is that now with my stature, short, like muscular impact, maybe on my lower back with a heavy back squatting, deadlifting, possibly sleeping poorly, and things like that, I should be looking after my back from a younger age. So I think if guys can try and, for me, is to follow something like Back Pain Aid, something like that, where they're building hip strength, hip and lower back strength, and shoulder strength. Shoulders for me is the first thing that started to go. Playing rugby, taking a couple of odd tackles, I had my rotator cuff fixed on this shoulder. This shoulder is actually worse than the shoulder that they fixed, but that's because I spent time rehabbing the shoulder. So for me, it's sort out your shoulders. One of the big things was Power Monkey Fitness that I follow. He's the guy that he did the gymnastics seminar for
Dave Durant.
Dave Durant. He's the guy that I followed to fix my shouldering because I was already in the CrossFit scene. He did the gymnastics, the CrossFit gymnastics seminar that I went to. That was amazing. That's one of the best seminars that I've been to. That routine I give to all of my clients. So it's just a little Power Monkey fitness routine. It's with the TheraBand. You can just Google TheraBand, Power Monkey, Dave Durante, and you'll get that. I'll put it on the links in this as well. So hips and shoulders for me is if I go back, if I could have started that kind of thing. So maybe even having a gymnastic background, maybe even doing gymnastics from a younger age. So instead of doing karate, maybe, which I think is still good, doing things like wrestling. I wouldn't say jiu-jitsu, I'd say wrestling and gymnastics, I think is a key foundation movement thing that I would send my kids. So James and Ems, I'm definitely going to try slot into that. So I'm trying to get James into wrestling now at 6. I think doing some, I don't know, coming to the box on Saturdays and doing some training with like our kids coaching, things like that. They'll naturally just get in the rings and do gymnastics. But I think so wrestling, gymnastics, and then focusing on hips and shoulders. For me, if I could go back in time and do that and then carry on doing what I did, so do the rugby thing, do the strength training, do the CrossFit, whatever it is, maybe do the CrossFit scene a little bit earlier as well. So doing that from a young age, even in place of gymnastics. So maybe doing, I don't know, join your local CrossFit gym and send your kids to that kind of thing. I think that's the base that I would do. But scale back, make sure that the intensity is down. So have a good coach on duty that's making sure that there's body weight still, that the focus is there on movement, which most CrossFits do. I think that's what I'll change. That's kind of but still enjoy. Maybe I would have had a better rugby career if I didn't get injured, through not having my shoulder get injured. And yeah, I got a Jones fracture in my ankle from dancing drunk, actually. So there was a night out dancing after a rugby game, got very drunk, and then I rotated my ankle.
It's definitely the rugby's fault.
Well, if I wasn't in that rugby scene, maybe drinking, like it's the rugby scene linked with drinking, I think. Like everyone goes out and just drinks 10 brandies and cokes. Like there's got to be a focus on kids these days. I was 20 at that age, I think, 20, 21, rolled my ankle. There's my whole rugby season done. Jones fracture in a crutch now, done. So stupid things. I think like someone like Josh at the gym, that looks on track. He doesn't drink much. He's training, what we say, hard. And he's kind of the kid on track. Luca coming to me the other day, like, I want to get bigger, like, put on some muscle size. He's only 20. Like, these guys, we want to try and give better direction. There's another dad the other day. My son's 17. I want him to get into this. Giving these kids a slightly better, like, knowledge platform of, like, yes, there's the partying and that, but hey, man, let me explain to you what the drinking is doing. This is what I would have done from a younger age, like not drinking as much, focusing my time on training, having guys like us maybe as like a mentor to then carry on or get that mentorship from a younger age, maybe. So getting in that scene, I think, or in that environment from a young age. So let's call it the Fitbox vibe or the CrossFit gyms. If you're in that scene from a younger age, you're likely going to be around someone like us that's maybe just giving you better values from a younger age. So I think that's me, yeah.
No, I think it's good. For my side, I think obviously I agree with everything you're saying. I feel very similarly. But one thing I would probably look at would be looking after my joints from a younger age. There's a lot that you can get away with when you're young. That doesn't mean you should get away with it. So you kind of neglect the mobility side of things, stretching and strengthening the stability muscles rather than just the showy muscles. And you can get away with it when you're younger because even if you do get injured, you recover very quickly. So I think mindset I would change for me would be like just because you can get away with it doesn't mean you should. You can sleep less, you can eat worse, and still improve. But I think the damage you do, maybe you don't notice, but it does come back and bite you later in life. So I think a much bigger focus would be on mobility from a very young age because when you are young, you are naturally very mobile. Kids are flexible, and you lose it as you get older on a continual decline of decrepitation until you die. You can kind of stave that off a little bit, by stretching and focusing on mobility. And the earlier you start that, the further along you get when you get to that point. So mobility would be definitely something I'd focus on. I didn't really have access to information. I didn't have like internet growing up or anyone in my town who knew what training was. I kind of just tried. So I think access to information now has changed a lot. And that would be something I wish I had to kind of figure out how to do things and not make so many mistakes along the way. Because you experiment with your body and you experiment with your health, and that's what what other option do you have? You know, you can't stay unhealthy. So I did a lot wrong. I definitely undernourished myself on my sort of fat loss journey, which I think also damages you in the long run. So I think nutrition focus is something I would not change, but I wish could have been different because I did the best I could with the information that I had. So I think that would be something I would want my kids to know early on is understanding fueling your body. That's a big thing. And then yeah, I think gymnastics and wrestling is great. I think kids must learn how to move their bodies before they learn how to move weights. And I think that's a big place where people miss out because I have boys coming to me saying, I'd like to get bigger. And you say, okay, well, let's do a yoga class. Like no one's going to do that. And that's the first thing you should be doing. You should be understanding how do you balance, how do you become aware of where your body is? Because if you're aware of maybe a niggle or whatever that is, you won't necessarily put yourself in a position to get injured. So body awareness, I think, is massive. And I think if we can start developing body awareness from a young age, that makes all the difference when you get older. And that's basically what we do here at the school. So through the training programs, we start with our grade 8s and move to grade 12s on a continually increasing gradient, focusing primarily on body awareness, mobility, and then once that's done, small muscle groups, and then create movement patterns. You actually don't need much to build a healthy, impressive physique long term. You just need an understanding of the basics and just do that for a very long time.
There was just the one thing I didn't want to forget there. So you said the mobility, and then the what was the other main thing? Just the small movements. So there's the small movement strength, and then again you like the Luca kind of vibe, like getting under nutrition. So the mobility side, I'm starting to see kids. So you do bigger kids here at Pora, so it's like grade A to the matric side, and then you can obviously pick it up because they are more lump or whatever it is, and you see the gross motor skill issues quite quickly. I'm starting to see. So I do the grade 1s to grade 7s at Welgemoot Primary, and I very quickly see that this kid has got a gross motor skill issue. Um, and I go straight to the teacher, like, have you chatted to the parent? Have you noticed this? Have you noticed that? Like, do you know that this kid's got an issue? And they're like, no, what do you mean? I'm like, clearly you haven't like seen what I'm seeing. Then I explain and they're like, oh, I see what you mean. Like, it's kind of obvious, you know? So I think it's very important for parents to make sure that there is I wanted to bring ballet in there even. So obviously I'm talking about wrestling for James and like a boys sport. Girls can obviously do wrestling and stuff, but something like ballet, I get a ballet client in, and I'll never forget it was way back at the box, like when you signed up. There was that small little girl. I don't remember. Anyway, so mom wrote it down, her and a friend Daniela, I can't remember hers, but I gave her a technique bar to learn the snatch that day, and she just like, I'm like, hey guys, let me coach a snatch, and she's just like, boop, boop, done. I was like, oh, have you done some weightlifting before? She's like, no. I'm like, what's your background again? Gymnastics, and then she did like a little bit of ballet. Like, so you've never picked up a barbell? She's like, no. And this is like 13, 14 years old. So it's that body awareness that you say that they have to just understand the very simple mechanics of squat, lunge, move, roll, forward roll, backward roll, cartwheel, kick up to the wall, all the basics that we do, obviously, with the kids coming through the gym and the Welgemoot thing. And I think if they have that foundation, then it's key to obviously then move into obviously a sport. The other thing that you mentioned there was that nourishment thing. So Luca's discussion that I had the other day with him, he's just not eating enough food. He's this big dude. He can have the capacity to have 10 kgs more muscle mass, but he's lazy as well. He's changing his mindset a little bit now. He's like, no, I want to learn. Like I want to learn. Like can you send me some? Dude, just research it yourself. Pick up your phone, go on social media, just go have a chat with Neil. Like, go and ask him for some time. Ask your parents to pay for it. Get a 45-minute consultation with Neil and speak to him because he's the guy you want to speak to. You don't want to speak to me. I'm short. I've got muscle mass like quite quickly, this or that. Like, it's fine. Go speak to Neil, someone that's maybe leaner, that's had a longer journey to try pick up 10 kilograms of muscle. So I think that's important. So that nourishment, kids have to understand and parents have to understand, which, I mean, we're doing well now. And I think you obviously want to do with your kids. And like, I just want James and Emily to understand food. It's not forcing you to eat your dinner or forcing you to finish this. Understand that Emily goes, Dad, a banana's good? I'm like, yes, yeah, banana is good. Pick up something else. Sweetie's not. I'm like, no. Like, if you want to like feel better, no. Yeah. Or James is like, I got a bit of hay. I'm like, Boyke, have you had water today? Why water? I'm like, water will make you feel good. So it's just like the simple thing about getting kids to understand from a younger age, through kids at the gym, if they come to me, I'm going to sit out today, I've got a bit of a headache. Have you had water? No. Go drink water then. Come sit down and watch the class, but go get water. Simple, simple, simple things. So take us through your changes.
Um, yeah, I don't know if I mean there's too much that I would do differently. Obviously, like Ben said, when I was growing up, like we didn't have the internet, we didn't have all of these things. So you are influenced by what you see and get around you. Luckily, I grew up in a family that was kind of sport orientated, so we were kept active. Um, yeah, would I've loved to have like a dad at a young age who said, "Yeah, come do this and train or whatever." Like that would have been cool to have had. Or yeah, I can understand even from that flexibility point of view of like doing a sport that promoted flexibility, whether it was karate or gymnastics from an early age, it kind of gives you that base. Growing up would have been better. It's harder to get more and more flexible the older you do sort of get. Um, but yeah, I think the only thing is, yeah, if like the greater understanding of nutrition you have from an earlier age and to know what to eat, you're putting yourself ahead of everyone else who's not doing that. That is a huge stepping stone for those. So for parents out there who are not really focused on their kids' nutrition, that's really something you do need to pay attention to. But yeah, I was grateful that, we also, like growing up, we would climb walls and climb trees and, walk along fences and do stuff. So you're testing your balance, you're testing coordination, or we're playing sports, or, doing cartwheels on the ground or the handstands and whatever else we might have been messing around with as kids. Or, we used to watch a capoeira movie and then we'd be doing spins and whatever on the garden outside, I mean, I remember fly kicking my cousin's tooth out on the bed, jumping around, stuff like that. But so you're developing body awareness through play, and that is also a key aspect. Like it's same as like, yeah, cool, get your kid into the gym, but if they also want to play sports, learn those dynamics, don't forget about that. Like, yeah, I would have loved to have been able to maybe start a bit of CrossFit at a younger age. I wouldn't have wanted to maybe do that competitively because I feel like I could push it a little too far too soon. Um, but those are all cool things to have had. But for me, a little bit of base training in some weights or body weight work, building up that base level strength and awareness as you're going, remembering to play and test yourself on those different things. And yeah, you've got the internet at your hands these days, so information's everywhere. I mean, when we started off, it was like, I think at one point I bought myself Arnold Schwarzenegger's Encyclopedia to Bodybuilding, or it was like the Men's Health Inspiration. That's what we had around. So I didn't like, there was no functional fitness. You went into Virgin Active and it was just guys in striped pants with the moon bags and whatever else around. Like we didn't have CrossFit boxes to go into and see all these different stuff, or, that positive sort of culture of different things. It was like an aerobics class or lift weights, do the circuit, or I don't know, jump on a spinning bike or something. So there's so much more out there for guys to pick and choose which you want to go. And people have built great physiques and fitness levels doing a variety of different things. So yeah, go out there, play and explore. Um, so I was happy with getting a base in, bodybuilding and learning proper technique and movement from an early age. And, even through exploring that through my own interest in it and learning. And that gave me a great foundation, which I think has helped me to prevent injury as I went more into the side of, functional fitness and more performance stuff, because it allowed me to sort of build nice, strong joints through a full range of motion and give me that type of thing. So, touch wood, I've never really had a major serious injury. But it also allowed me to build a physique which I can easily now maintain, hold, know what I've done. And it's going to be important for certain things which I value now going forward as I get older, like holding on to muscle mass, making sure I know proper technique and to train properly to take less risk on my joints. So, I don't think there's anything. There's certain things that if I could do slightly different, but yeah, it doesn't really out of my control. Wasn't really around as much back then. But yeah, for me, enjoy playing sports, learn to move your body, have fun with it, try different things, and form a good solid base. And yeah, make sure from as early as possible that you're getting your nutrition on the right track.
Yeah, I think so. You touched on a few things there. So the main one that I wanted to just go into was that the kids must have fun playing. So like if we are at Stodels, they've got these tires around all like the eating area there. So we'll sit here and then there's the tires and the kids. And Emily will go and hop those tires all the time. And like Vicky or the granny will be like, I'm like, just they're gonna either fall on the sand, whatever it is, but just let them do it. Like let them balance, let them fail, and then go try again and fail and go try again. And Daddy, will you come help me? Yes, so I hold it a little bit and then I try it. So it's making sure that we don't like um cotton wool our kids from a young age. Like I'm definitely a not cotton wool parent. Vicky, obviously, she just doesn't want the kids to get hurt or whatever it is. I'm just like, just let them go, like whatever. Like we'll fix it. Like if something breaks, we'll go fix it. I know a couple of doctors like last call, I'll just phone it. So that's a huge one for me. The other one that you said, which I think you did very well. So you did a lot of strength training to obviously get, like you saying, get the joints strong, get that. That's obviously very good. The bodybuilding scene, I think, just from it being around it a lot, there's obviously that aspect of strength, which is great. Full range of motion, good technique, understanding the muscle groups. But I feel like the nutrition around bodybuilding is quite poor. I might be a little bit wrong, all right? And I might see that it's a bit too strict. But I think guys around bodybuilding need to just be careful to not get into that trap of like not under nutrition, but really smashing yourself. And it comes down to fighting. I watch a lot of UFC, and Joe Rogan always talks about it. The weight cutting, it's dangerous. It's dangerous for your brain. It's dangerous to a degree. Did you experience any of that, like when you were doing bodybuilding stuff, or see other guys doing it? Obviously, there's a steroid side and all that side, but we're not going to go into that. We're talking about training now. Do you think that's, and it's like nourishment, that falls into that nourishment training thing?
Well, look, anything where there's extreme, you're going to live on a dangerous slope. So, like not as a kid level did I do anything extreme. Like I didn't even use protein powder or creatine as a teenager. Like I only actually probably did that towards my 20s. But that stuff was all still very fresh and sort of new when that was, coming around. Um, but so there was no sort of extreme sides. I never competed in bodybuilding till I think mid 20s did I do like a fitness show, and that wasn't even bodybuilding. It's more like beach model type of vibe sort of thing. Um, yeah, obviously competitive anything, whether it's fighting, there's extreme sides of it. Even in CrossFit, there's an extreme sides of like, well, hey, we're doing something, we need to load this or do whatever the case is. That's not healthy. Anything that's on that edge of competition, there's a chance of something not being healthy. And yeah, with bodybuilding or physical culture, when it goes to like, oh, get to single digit body fat or get whatever, yes. When it gets to how much muscle mass can I put on my body, is there sort of extreme sides of things? Yes, because people are pushing the boundaries of where their body is physical capable of going or not. And yeah, that can lead to, effects from a mental side of things in terms of how you see food, how you see your body, and that can lead to sort of complications, which is probably one of the things that I was glad to move away from when I went to more the functional fitness and basing what I was doing more on performance and not just how one looked in the mirror. Because you can get trapped in a bodybuilding circle. You can be like, just how's that guy's arms or how's that guy's shoulders? I'll never have that. Or like, how does I compare? And and that's the biggest space in terms of virgin active in a weights area where you're always going to have that issue of everyone comparing themselves to ever. And I think stuff like Instagram and whatever else highlight that even more, where people have this constant comparison of their physiques. Yeah, but if I had that guy's shoulders, then I'd be great. Or if I had that person's whatever, and yeah, you have to reach your potential from where your body is, and everyone has a different level for what that
I
might
think
be.
like what you touched on there, I'm gonna need to take a pee break soon, so I think we'll go on to. I just want to leave it on a topic that we can touch on you. So you mentioned there that everything's got a bit of an extreme, and I think parents and then like young teens or adults that are watching this, like they need to then say, okay, cool, where am I at? Am I in a bodybuilding scene? Am I in a sports scene? Am I in a strongman scene? Am I trying to be a better rugby player? Whatever it is, I think parents have to really nutrition it and then have a look at where their son or daughter is and age, and then hit us up with comments or even a physical meeting to actually then say, let me maybe prevent my son or daughter from going into a bad realm of this is too much. So it's too much bodybuilding. This is too in depth of
Too strict
CrossFit,
dieting.
too strict dieting.
Yep.
Let them have fun to a point of, and like we're going to chat on it now. So I want to try and leave just on the pee break of, let's go into your strongman stuff. And then let's go into making sure guys don't go too heavy into the CrossFit scene with too much kind of go, and rather tap it off a bit and look at the longevity. Because if I look at how hard I went for 3 or 4 years with AJ, with training for regionals, I definitely damaged my body. Definitely. I mean, I think I was hitting that back squat. I think I hit the double back squat at like 210. I wouldn't say without a good strength like phase into it, but that's potentially what's hurt my back now, and the deadlifting AJ tagged me and posted the other day. He's like, dude, remember this? We touch and go 20 reps, I think at 150 or something like that. Like, I'll go find the video. I'll maybe chuck it on here because it's actually quite cool. But we were touch and going that, and it's like, that's not okay without doing the rehab, the recovery, the nutrition. Like, was my nutrition on track then? Probably not. Like, I don't know. So I'm going to take a pee break. Maybe tap on that. All right. Thanks for the pee break. Appreciate it.
All right.
Feeling better? My brain doesn't work if I got that pee on. Okay, so we're going to just carry on there. So we just chat about just making sure that your nourishment is good as a kid. And I think especially as parents, I want to encourage parents to reach out to us for dietary options, lifestyle.
100%.
I don't want to call it a diet, but parents need to know how much protein, how much fats, how much carbs kids are getting in. Make sure they're not binging on sodas and Energiades. Energiades isn't actually too bad. I mean,
let me chip in here a little bit, G, because having been a fat kid and seeing obesity increase amongst the young, one thing I need to stress in people's minds is how fat gain works. So if you're storing fat, you have fat cells that enlarge. They can only enlarge up to a certain point, and then they split in half. And now there's 2 fat cells, and those 2 can then enlarge in cells, and then they become 4, and 4 becomes 8. So you can see how it's an exponential increase. When you start dieting and you start losing fat, those fat cells will shrink, but you will never lose the amount, total number. So you'll never be able to get 2 to go back to 1. So now it's much more likely that you will gain fat when you're older because you have more fat cells to store with. Does that make sense? So you can never actually undo the damage done as a fat kid.
So I'm going to call it how it is, because we spoke about this the other day, and we're at a point now where we are not too shy to have this conversation with a parent that has potentially got a fatter kid. All right. You have to, if you've got a friend or a family friend around you and they are potentially not that overweight as an adult, but their kid is, let's call it like round, large, whatever you want to call it. They're on the heavier side. You can see physically, if you have a class full, and I see this all the time, have a class full of kids and there's 3 kids that are by far too big for what they should be. So we have to try and stress this to parents, is that, like you're saying now, it's that simple. You have a fat cell, it splits. Eventually they lose weight, they get back into shape, then they have 10 years of bad health or whatever it is, or they get sick or whatever. Now they gain weight all of a sudden again. And then they struggle quickly to get it off. And then they sit there as an adult. How am I going to lose this weight? I eat better, I train enough to keep myself going, whatever it is. Like, we need to obviously emphasize that these parents need to look after their kids better.
For sure. Now we get to the flip side of that, and we have kids who are dieting too strictly. All right. So that was definitely me as a child, because now you're like, really want to get lean. You really want to get lean as quick as possible. You don't really know what you're doing. So you just starve yourself, essentially. That will work. 100% that'll work. Unfortunately, you turn to foods which are generally lower calorie. And foods that are generally lower calorie oftentimes have lower micronutrient levels. So you start eating tuna and chicken breast in place of steak, because steak is high calorie, so you don't eat that. And you start missing out on what you need to develop normal hormone development as a child. So it's super important that children are getting all the micronutrients and enough total fat and enough total calories to support hormone development as a child, because that also sets you up for being overweight later in life if your hormone development wasn't normal. So it's very important that I'm not saying parents are retarded, but it's very important that a parent understands the needs of a child balanced both ways. How do we get enough nutrients that my child is developing normally on a hormone level, but not so many that I'm putting them in a difficult position for when they're older, that they're more likely to become obese and more likely to have what we call lifestyle diseases and get sick in their old age. So it doesn't have to be us. You can read enough and learn enough. The problem is when you start deep diving into these things, there's always going to be contradictory evidence. So you'll find an article published in the NCBR, peer reviewed 1 billion times, that says keto is the best. You can't beat keto. Then you'll scroll down a little bit. High carb, low fat is the best. Cannot beat it. Next article, Atkins, protein only is the best. Can't beat it. Then there's vegan. Then there's carnivore. And there's scientific evidence that all of these work and they're the best thing for you. And it becomes confusing. So you get to a point where you're like, actually, I don't know what I'm going to do. So I'm just going to carry on. Society can't be too bad. Let's just carry on the normal South African diet.
So, dude, I think this is exactly where again, this brings, and I'm just going to call it the Be Nice Guys product. This is where we are good at, I think, what we do, because everybody's different. And again, yes, what we talk about, the supplements, the hydration, the nutrition talk, the 5 pillars that we've been talking about, this talking about now about training, it's different for everybody. Neil is Neil. I'm me, you are you, and we've all had these different paths. What works for me is not going to work for Neil. It's not going to be like it. And parents have to, I'm seeing it now, and I'll just highlight again, James doesn't eat red meat. If he smells mince cooking, if we heat up whatever it is, he goes gross, and he actually, like, I can see it's like this weird thing. It's probably his touch. He's got like a sensitivity issue to like even grass now. Now, all of a sudden, grass is a bit of a problem. We were playing outside on Sunday, and he doesn't want to run on the grass because it's hurting his feet or whatever. It's his feet are itchy. She's obviously got an allergy, like a sensitivity issue. But coming back to the food side, so all I do is I let him make sure that he's getting his macros in, and it's a slight variety, even if it's not perfect. He's having crackers with cheese and butter. Now he's on that kind of train. So I'm like, Boykie, do you want some eggies in the car this morning? No, cracker and cheese. Made him the cracker and cheese. Then he heard that he's got crackers and cheese in his lunchbox. So I had made the boiled eggs. He's like, actually, I don't want this. So I spent 5 minutes putting the cracker together. So I'm like, whatever. No, he wants the eggs again. Like, that's cool, dude. So I've taken the egg yolk out, put the egg white in, all this effort for that. Emily never eats egg white. She doesn't like egg white. Dad, can I have egg white? Like, okay, cool. So I'm just like on a tangent now as a father that understands nutrition quite well now, but trying to read my kid to what they want today. And it changes every day. They eat carrots all the time. Dad, I don't eat carrots.
For sure. So young children are very difficult. I'm not a parent. I have nephews and nieces, and I can completely sympathize with parents who are going, I'm doing my flippin' best, but this child just won't eat what I want them to eat. That's not the issue. Whatever. Let kids be kids. Don't give them sugar at all, actually, but definitely not in excess. And then let them eat what they want to eat. They'll tell you what they want to eat, fine. But educate them. You know what I mean? And you can't educate them if you yourself are not educated. If someone comes to you and says, Dad, is carnivore diet good? And you're like, no. Why? I don't know. So unless you can defend what you're saying, seek professional help.
So let's dig into the training side. So I want to know your training side a bit. I think we want to just cover a couple more topics there that Neil had for us, but let's just dig into your training side of the powerlifting and what you would maybe change or anything that you would do a bit better.
I think powerlifting's great because developing strength as a man is important. I don't think that anyone should go through life without developing physical strength. It holds so much translation into how you carry yourself in society and the confidence you have behind yourself. So I think building strength is great. I think powerlifting is a stupid sport because it builds strength in very limited areas. A good squat, a good bench, and a good deadlift. That's it. So you become very imbalanced with regards to strength. If you're spending other time training other body parts, you fall behind. So you basically focus on 3 big lifts. So I think the idea behind building a strong body is great. We know now that the number one predictor of a healthy old age is the amount of muscle mass you carry. Not that strength and muscle mass are always related, but in general, they are very closely correlated. So building strength as a youngster is a great idea. People are very scared to let their children do strength training because it's going to stunt their growth. And there have been studies that showed that. Those studies are very old, and a lot of them have actually been redacted from the literature. Not many people know about that, but the authors have come back and said, we were wrong. The study was done incorrectly. The results actually show X, Y, and Z, that it doesn't stunt your growth.
So that's the question that I wanted to try get into, is that the general question for girls and for boys.
Mhm.
I can't let my kids start training until they're 16, like weight training. I completely disagree with that. I do it with my kids at the gym. Any kids that are coming through there, I've got Simeon, I think he's 10 or 11. He trains with his mom in the evenings. I think he's cleaning like 30. There's a bit of push in class. I think that I want to just try and dial back a bit. He's got a aunt that is like a Olympic weightlifter. I always forget her name. It's not
We'll call her
Celeste.
Sally.
Anyway, Sally. So she's Olympic champion. She's been like to the Olympics, I think, things like that. So he's obviously got like a very big push around him. So I don't want him to try rush because he's a small kid, but he's got potential. His mom messaged me the other day on the rugby field. He's just like, he's walking through kids. Not because he's big. He's not a big kid, but he's just physically strong. Like he's, for his age, I think he's almost perfect where he is. I'm always on his case, fix your back, things like that. So obviously there's no direct age. So we can't put an age to where you should, like 15 is a number,
Sure.
12 is a number. But I think parents have to notice, my kid can move well. Let's move this object in.
I do think that age and training age are totally different things. You've got a 15-year-old who you load with 50-kilogram back squat, and then you've got for the first time, and you've got a 15-year-old who's been doing back squats since he was 8. The training age is very different, and the one will get injured and the one won't get injured. It's got nothing to do with where they are age-wise. It's all about training age. So safety with regards to training comes back to how have you been moving your body up until this point. So I encourage parents to get their children into the gym. I don't think that maximal loading in kids is a good idea. And I think that anyone who comes and says maximal loading in kids is a good idea is retarded. I'm very happy to take them on in a debate live, anytime, anywhere. If anyone feels that, I don't think there are very many people who do. But I do think that children should be exploring what their bodies are capable of in a safe environment.
I think it relates to adults as well. I mean, we talk about it at the gym as well. We have guys that are testing maxes. Like, they shouldn't be testing maxes because they're not squatting to depth, or they're not. And that comes back to like our background of gymming, or let's call it bodybuilding, because you're in the Virgin Active. If we're in the Virgin Active, we're doing things to the full range of motion because we want the muscle to be, or not even that, because we are doing shorter like pump sessions, whatever it is. But I mean, we
that's
don't
very
even,
debatable.
yeah, like
I wouldn't say that, guys.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
a very generalization.
So we're doing things differently, but the max loading shouldn't come in even with some adults. I mean, like, so not even putting onto kids' ages. It's like, if you're not moving well and you're not knowing why you max testing, you shouldn't be testing max.
Even if you are moving well, is there actually any reason to test your 1 rep max?
I'm gonna have to tease AJ here quickly, but we would be snatching. The oak just wants to max out all the time, and I'm just hitting like a number that's close to what he's maxing on, whatever it is. And he's like, "But you're not missing snatch." I'm like, "It's because I don't max out. This is probably not my max. I could probably go 10 kg." Then the one day that's when I snatched the 120 for the first time, and he'll tell us as well. We were like adding 5, adding 2.5, adding 5, adding 2.5, and we were just like hanging out, resting 3 minutes in between lifts or whatever it was, and the number just didn't stop. But it's because I didn't really test my max. So I went from like a 105 kg max, all of a sudden, oh shit, I hit 120. But it's because I was being consistent on I don't know, whatever that is, 80% or whatever it is, like, so there's no reason to max out.
There literally isn't. So people argue, how do I build a program without knowing what my 1 rep max is? Because there'll always be a program where it'll say, okay, we're doing 15 reps at 60% of your 1 rep max. You can get a very good estimate of your 1 rep max by doing a 5 rep max. You don't ever have to test a 1 rep max. It's totally redundant in training.
But then, okay, so you're the programmer here, so I'm going to bounce it off you. What is someone going to look at? How would you build to okay, so you're saying 5 rep max. How would you build to a 5 rep max? What's your goal? If I'm like, Neil, today we're going to test my 5 rep max, how am I going to do that?
Well, I mean, what is let's just clarify what a 5 rep max is. Is it 5 rep max like just moving the weight from point A to point B, or is it moving a 5 rep max with good form, controlled tempo, and sort of posture at the same point in time? Like, there's different varieties of that. Like, I had a client the other day do a 5 rep max, but we did it with a 3-second negative and a 2-second pause in the bottom because I wanted to make it challenging. So, is that a true 5 rep max at the maximum load? No, because if I take that away, it's going to be a lot easier. But again, also, like, when you get to that, like, can I do another rep? no, that's obviously going to be a true 5 rep max. But you can do that with good form and be able to do that, or you can do it with bad form where maybe you're not hitting the bottom of a squat or you're rounding your back to try to get that up. So there's different ways in which one can accomplish that. Obviously, better form is better. Like you're protecting your body. But like Ben says, you don't like going to 1 rep is never going to be the way. I was exactly the same with you with my snatch, where I hit 115 and it took me forever to get to the 120 mark, but I spent like a whole year at like 80 odd percent. Then all of a sudden, 120, 122. And I was also just prepping for a comp where we had to test something. Um, and it was simple, but so do you ever really want to put your body into that point of where you're going for that one? Not really necessary, unless it's again your sport, and the sport requires that of you. So you need to understand that. But for the average general population, like that's not really worth the risk. So yeah, you'd rather work at slightly higher rep ranges. You're going to get slightly benefit, but again, do that in a controlled fashion without compromising form just to move an extra kilo or two. Like it's not worth it at the end of the day to put yourself under that pressure. And if you can do that in a controlled manner, that means everything's working well and you're not putting your body under that extra stress. And how do you get there? Well, you just move slowly, little bit by little bit to get there. But, I'd encourage more people to start at a higher rep range and eventually build up to that, to build that time under tension, which is getting your body stronger in the process.
I think you'll see it in, because I'm just thinking now in like a weightlifting scene. Now it's like, okay, when do these guys want to test 1 rep maxes? Okay, cool. Let's look at an Olympic lifter. Those oaks are still not hitting the numbers that they can squat. I mean, those oaks are front squatting, whatever, something stupid. It's because they need to have a 5 rep max at this to just hit that 1 rep max on the platform consistently. Those oaks are, okay, cool. Some of them are hitting like a new PR or whatever it is, like on the floor. But some of those oaks aren't. Like if you ever look at that guy now that's playing around with the world record, every time he comes on, he just adds a bit. He's probably done maybe 20 kilograms on the training platform somewhere, because that's now like he's in the world setting. He just wants to walk on and like lift it.
So when I went to World Champs, the guy who won the World Championships in my division, he deadlifted a weight, which was the top weight, and he had no idea what it was. And I asked him, how did you plan your lifts? And he said he doesn't ever plan his lifts. His coach works out what his lifts are, and he always knows whatever is on the bar, which he never knows what it is not as much as he can do. That's at the world level, the top. And he's hitting a PR there. That's his best ever, but he knows he's got more in the tank. And those are the top professionals. And yet we go, I'm going max today
Yeah,
in a random gym in the middle of nowhere for no reason.
A training bit of advice that I want to give, and I think we're all agreeing that on that now, is that if younger generation or even older generation are watching this and you're trying to get into whatever the training sport is that you're doing, just work lighter and make sure your mechanics are good. And this is where the CrossFit scene comes in quite well internationally, because locally you do have the odd CrossFit box or whatever it is that's testing 1 rep maxes each and every other week, which I don't think is good. I'll get a buddy that'll go from Cape Town, wherever, hypothetically to Joburg, and they go train at a box there, and they're like, that place is crazy. These people are smashing weights around, going crazy. I'm like, yeah, that's not what we practice here. Here we're practicing, okay, cool, my clientele at Fitbox is like the 90%ers are just stay-at-home moms and the casual dad that's just trying to look after their body. So it's way off of like a CrossFit scene box, which is why we're not a CrossFit box. But I mean, I don't think it's the way to be going.
Sure.
And these guys must take, I think, what we're saying and go and follow, like we're saying now, go follow social media, follow something that is dialed back, that's looking at joint prevention, injury prevention. I think your body's not injured because you've spent so many years moving well through good range of motion, which I think set you up for not being like you've never been injured. Like you had the hip flexor thing, but you know how to fix it the whole time.
Yeah, but it's also listening to my body. Like, if I'm picking up this weight, does it feel good or doesn't feel good? If it feels compromised, don't do it. Like there's no point in sacrificing that lift right then to spend another few months out because now you need an op or you're injured and you're rehabbing it. Like, that's not moving the needle forward. You might think, oh, I'm moving this needle forward if I can add these 2 kilos. You're not. Because if you're injured and you're out for the next while, then it's not worth the while.
And I'm going to use this as a topic now as well, because we spoke about it earlier. So we did the wall ball workout the other day. I think I've got 1 no rep and a no rep myself, but I'm aiming for a target. I'm hitting perfect squat depth, which I know is lean back in the heels because I've got a very short squat. So if I go too much on my toes, I know that I'm not hitting depth with my squat, and I'm hitting perfect target. If the guys in class not hitting squat depth, they feel like they might be, but they're not. Then I'm like, guys, but that's the target. In the open, if your video shows that you're not hitting above the gray line, if you can see the gray line with your ball, you're not hitting target. Hit above it and make it consistent that you can do 84 reps that was in that workout, hitting that target specifically. So be more specific, I think, on moving perfectly. And it's probably my OCD nature as well, that I've got to hit that specific mark on the wall each time. I was like, I'm not in my right spot here. Let me just shuffle left. Oh, there we go. Okay, there's that target that I aim for the whole time. So being specific with your training, with the weight, with your training for as long as you can.
Agreed. I do also think that there's a warning caveat attached to that in the CrossFit setting or in the functional fitness setting is you start very quickly to compare yourselves because it is a competitive environment. I think men are worse at this than women, but I do think women also get caught up in it, where you want to do more because you're comparing yourself. We've all been on the same program. Neil's added 10 kilos to his squat. My squat's maybe gone 2 kilos down. Now I'm going to push it. Now, that's the danger of the setting as well. So also to have a bit of a brain on you to say your body is variable. You will have ups and downs, and we don't all progress in a linear fashion. To be patient and say, okay, my turn's coming, and maybe it's not. Maybe this is my genetic potential, and this is where I'm at. That's fine.
I think that's quite a cool thing to say because, I mean, like, I don't want to say that I can ever hit the 120 again on that snatch, but it's probably not going to happen with my training currently, and I don't think I envision it unless I go back into a little bit of a strength cycle. My back feels better, my shoulders feel better, and there's so many variables. But I think to make sure that that we just try and be mindful of where you are in class. Like, we've got the program now running, and you obviously see it from where you're coaching from, but we've got the back squat cycle. The guys have to pair up because we've only got 6 squat racks. Neil's got his PT area, so we're a little bit limited. So we get into groups of 3. No matter how many times I say, don't squat with somebody at their weight, I see the guys, let's just go at 90. No, you should be at 92. You should be at 97. I should be at 90. We should together make sure that you are at your exact percentage, and so are you, and so am I for the day. How do I feel today? And you said it there now as well. You're not going to maybe hit it this next 3 weeks. We've got a 3-week squat cycle now. That is not a big squat cycle. It's just a taper off the last one, and it's just tweaking the program slightly. You have to work at your percentage. So if you want to be good at what you're doing with what you're doing now, you need to have your number written up on your board before you walk into class. And if I'm going to pair with Neil and with you for the day, I've got to be at my numbers. It doesn't matter where you are. And if I start squatting and I'm like, nowhere close to my number today, then I back off my number. Like when we train together, I mean, I'm always doing it. I'm not going to work at your way because it's stupid. The guy's got,
for sure.
Neil's got 10 years more probably strength training than what I do. I'm not going to go. And sometimes I do try and move it. And then you see me, I obviously just...
You're only squatting half my rep range.
Here we go. So here goes the bad. So what's that dumbbell thing we did the other day when it's that rotation thing? What do you call it? Has it even got a name? So like so you're in the plank position and then you take the dumbbell, you twist it.
Oh, he did a rotational press.
Yeah, it's like a rotation press on a plank. So I see him going and fetching heavier weights for me. He's like leaving them out. Then he packs away the other ones, but he leaves the other ones out. I'm like, he's like, no, I'm leaving it for you. I'm leaving it for you because he obviously knows that I am messing around. But that's the kind of thing. Like, you want to have someone that you're training with that knows your potential maybe. Like, you know how to obviously push me to where I should be as well. So, again, coming back, I think a tip, and I'll probably go try to list all the tips that we mentioned today. But a tip is that you've got to have a good training partner or a good program to follow. And we've mentioned a few times, use social media a bit. I want to highlight there again, which I think we obviously see as well. Don't let someone... get caught into the social media, and girls maybe see this a bit more. I see this girl with this filter, with this awesome body and Virgin Active, whatever it is. You've got to not follow that stuff.
I 100% agree. One of the tenets we have in the program here is comparison is the thief of progress. It's the one thing that will stop you progressing. And it seems so strange because it seems like comparing yourself to somewhere that you aspire to be is a good idea. And generally that is the case. I think like if you look at someone who's achieved something financially that you haven't and you try and look for them, you try to push yourself within the health and fitness space, it doesn't seem to have the same carryover. Just from a like objective scientific standpoint of observing the community as a whole, it's not how it works. It's great that you have aspirations and I'm very keen on that. But if you're comparing yourself continuously to other people, it actually pushes the needle back.
Yeah. What else did we have to cover on the topics? Did we cover everything?
Yeah, it's really good. I mean, I think, for a lot of people also, it's always remembering that Obviously in sports and competition, guys are living for the next competition and the next thing. But if you're looking to train for life, it's not about just today. It's bearing like, okay, I'm here on this planet for the next X amount of years. I still want to move well, look good, feel good when I get to that point in time. If what I'm doing today and I'm really like in a competitive sport, it's probably not moving the needle much forward on that aspect. All right. So, what you're seeing guys doing in that competitive environment, it's not a long lasting scenario. Like those people, I mean, we've seen this in every sport where people burn themselves out. You've got Ronnie Coleman in bodybuilding who's had like 20 backups and can barely stand up. You've got guys from powerlifting or strength training or whatever CrossFit background, different things where guys have multiple injuries and I can't do certain things. So you always got to bear in mind of like, where do I want to be? What are the things that still value for my life down the road? So like when I did bodybuilding, it was like, cool, I'm not going to go the enhanced route because that's temporary. It's not going to let me be who I want to be further down the road. Like it's not a long lasting scenario. Even now it's CrossFit, like I'm backing off too much a little bit from the CrossFit scene because I'm going, well, 20 years from now, it's not going to be important to me how much I snatch or how much I squat clean or whatever that might be,
Or how
or
much
how
paddle
many
you
muscle
squeezing.
ups I can do in a whatever it's going to be, or how many muscle ups I can do in a row. So I need to lay off those intensity sort of things to give my body what it needs to like give me what I want down the road. And it's always bearing that in mind. Like we want to chase something in the hype of the moment, but we're sacrificing something for what might be important later, and you got to have that mindset of like, okay, is this serving me for what I want longer down the road?
I think as you get older, you obviously just start to look back at what you want to now do moving forward. So I think maybe from a younger age, having someone to help you paint a picture of your goals. So to say, this is my short term goal, what can I sacrifice, but not sacrifice a slightly longer term goal? And try and build that picture, I think, better. I don't think I did that. I don't think any of us did that. Is like, at my time now, where I am now, what am I doing now? What am I doing in 3 years' time? We obviously don't know these things. I didn't have any idea that I was going to go from playing semi-professional rugby to getting injured to then quitting engineering and opening up a CrossFit box. That's crazy. If you had to ask me that where I'd be here today talking some bullshit with you guys on a podcast, that's crazy. I'm an engineer by trade. My brain is a little bit kind of in the mathematical scene. The programming brought me joy with that mathematical thing. So programming like things. So as I got into programming CrossFit workouts or program for the gyms, that kept me going. So it's kept my brain going. But I think what Neil says is that like you have to look at the long-term effect of what's happening. And I think as parents, so then the parent watching this, you need to try and have some kind of picture, but let your kid have fun and try and make sure that training is always fun. I think my training now is only fun because, or the training that I'm doing now is only pure fun. I'm doing the open now for fun. I train with you, my rehab stuff now, because I dig hanging out training, like it's got to be fun. And I think if anybody's looking at doing something or to try and risk something or to try and sacrifice something, the word that you use, I think you've got to try and just rethink of what you're doing.
I think if you're going to do anything, you have to realize that you're doing it for the rest of your life. Or if you're deciding you're going to start losing weight now, you're never off diet. If you're going to start exercising now, you never stop. It has to be something that you can do for the rest of your life. And unfortunately, we're all human. You are going to have to find something that you enjoy doing. There's no best exercise program. I think a lot of people listen to an exercise podcast and they're like, oh, yes, I'm going to learn now what is the best exercise. There isn't. It's the one that you're going to do forever until the day you die.
And it's the one that you're enjoying.
Yeah, and
it's the one you're enjoying.
it.
So training that you're enjoying doing. I just want to not take back because I'm watching quite a lot of professional like sports now, like UFC stuff. Guys giving up a lot. So giving up a lot, giving time with their family, giving up a lot of time. It's not what you're giving up to be good at what you want to try to do. So giving up time to be a professional rugby player or whatever it is, that's different than sacrificing health. That I think was what you're trying to put here. So they're sacrificing health for when you're older. We're not sacrificing time. There's time and hard effort and David Goggins and all that. That's a different tangent. That's you training hard. We don't want you to sacrifice health to move forward.
For sure. And like Neil said, if you are going to be a professional sportsman, you are going to sacrifice health. Professional sports people live shorter, on average 15 years. It's okay, we're taking across multiple sports here, but that's a massive drop in age in life expectancy. that's what you're signing up for as a professional sportsman. So if you do want to be a professional sportsman, be aware and yeah, go for it. Absolutely, have at it. I agree. But if you're not a professional sportsman, you're training for longevity. Understand that that's the goal. And if you are going to do this for a long time, you're not going to do it if you don't enjoy it.
I think having a bit of a balance as well from a younger age. So I don't know, Neil, how you feel about this, but if I was a younger me, I'd say to me, listen, like, I don't know, I always get a little bit of flack from it, but trying to be too strict on what you do is not the way to go. Like, I think we said it a few times, but I mean, you've got to have this fine line, and we talk to our clients about it, this fine line of drinking just a little bit less, but understanding what it's doing to your body so that all these things don't damage you, so that you've got some more time on hand to kind of get better at a sport. Or, like, if I look back, I definitely messed up my sporting career through just partying a bit too much. And would you say that people around you have,
Yeah, well, you're not the
like,
only one. I can point to plenty of people who messed their sporting career up by partying a little too much when they were younger. I think this starts, like, I had this discussion with a client today, like, as she has young kids, and like her son has started planting vegetables and fruit, and now he gets to eat it. And he's trying things which he never had before because he's been in the process and the understanding and getting to do that thing. And I think that everything is about learning to enjoy the process more than the results at the end of the day. So when it comes to training, like, it's not for me about like, oh, what results did I get from this training? It's a matter of like, what is this training giving me to serve me this purpose? And it's making my day better. It's making me better. Like, it's not just about whether I lost weight or gained muscle or got fit at the end of the day. Like, I enjoy just the process of going in and knowing I did that work and it's did me some good for the day. And if you can enjoy the process of prepping your food, making sure your meal's good, eating that healthy meal, getting to the gym training, getting to bed on time, make sure you're staying hydrated, and all of that, you're going to do it for a longer period of time. Because if you just focus on the results are not going to be there every day. As your training age gets more and more, like for me to get serious results, it takes a lot of work because I've been training for 20 odd years. Like, my training age is high. The results that I'm going to get are minimal. If I just focus on the results now, I probably wouldn't be training. That is huge.
but I mean, using that with the paddle that you're doing now. So let's just, like, you're on a new training program now, let's call it. So, like, you've got all these results from training for so long. Now you're playing paddle for the first time in your life. Any kind of racket sport. Have you played a lot of racket sport
No, I
before?
haven't played a
Yeah.
lot of racket with it, a bit of,
Yeah,
squash,
squash or cricket
but that was
or
about it.
like
Yeah.
that kind of thing. And I've seen your progress because you've put in a lot of time and effort, probably sacrifice. So you've sacrificed the training that we were doing, the high intense crosses stuff, that kind of thing. But you are enjoying that process now as well. Like, if I
Yeah.
see the enjoyment of you getting your little paddle bat out and going on the court there and smacking balls like
Yeah.
timelessly or whatever it is, I see that you're enjoying it, and that's cool to see, even at your 40-year-old age, like learning something new and putting
Yeah.
time and effort into something.
There's obviously different things, but at the same time, you've got to enjoy that process. And yeah, like, you might really love to run, but you still need to do weight training. You might hate to do weight training, but like, lifting weights is a great, like one said, you need muscle mass, you need to have strong bones, you need to whatever. So there's going to be certain things you're going to still need to do, and you've got to suck those things up. It's part of the process. So once again, enjoy that process of like, what I'm doing for me now is good for my body later.
Yeah, it's frustrating now because I've got a client and a very good friend of mine. They doing Ironmans, things like that, and they're not in a happy space of training. Like, the training sucks. Training for Ironman sucks because you got to spend time on the bike, time on the running, time on the swim. You're sacrificing time from life, and they're also now not training at the box. So, like, I don't think they're enjoying life at the moment. Why do that then? Why put yourself through that process? Like, find something that you enjoy. If you enjoy doing Ironmans, yes, you know it's going to suck the training, but don't give up so much that, like, now you're trying to lose weight because now you're heavier. Like, why then even do it? Like, to be honest.
There is something to be said for developing mental fortitude of I'm sacrificing something for a goal and I'm learning mental toughness. I don't think that's necessarily valueless. But as far as training benefits purely goes, obviously that's not the best thing. But I think setting yourself a challenging goal and proving to yourself that you achieved it by achieving it, you build self-respect, which I do think has value.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Ben on that one. Like, having something that is difficult and you're pushing through to the end. But again, choose that something which is like, if anything in that regard, and I'm whatever, your life is going to be out of balance for a while. And you have to come to say, cool, I want X, but it also means Y is going to happen. Like, there's a positive and negative. When you say yes to one thing, you're also saying no to other things. So that means saying no to training at the box, saying no to going out to late nights, to saying no to one of those things. And you've got to be willing to whatever you say yes to, what are you also saying no to? And if you can't accept that no, then is it worthwhile for you to really go out and achieve that?
Yeah, I think that's very good of what you've taught me, because I mean, you have a few tangents, like I'm trying to get you to do the program for Clash now, and your head's just not in it, which is cool because you're saying no to things that you're just not keen to do, and I think guys have got to do that. Like, just make sure that you're saying no to the right things, and then be happy with that no. Maybe pick it up later on or whatever it is, but I mean, like don't write things off, but definitely say no. Is there anything else that we need to cover, guys? Because I think we've had a lack of
Well,
chat.
it was, I think the last thing that we could maybe just touch on is like, from what you've learned from now, what do you feel training means to you going forward, or what do you value going forward with your training?
Yeah, so I think for me, it's definitely trying to be a role model for younger me's that can like not go out partying as much. Josh is great. Like I'm going to use Josh as an example. Like he had a brain. Can you remember what he had exactly? Anyway, he came to train at the box. I gave him some BCAs. He's like, hey man, like I haven't got anything for training today. Can I have some of your BCAs? I'm like, sweet, yeah. I mean, BCAs. Then his sister phoned me, like it was closing up the gym. I think I was at home actually. And then I'm like, why the hell is the sister phoning me? I'm like, okay, how's it? She's like, no, Josh had an epileptic. He's having a seizure on the floor in the house. What did he take at the gym? I'm like, oh shit. BCAs that I gave him. Maybe he's allergic to something. I had a freak out. Did I not phone you? Maybe I phoned Justin. Anyway, Kim phoned me back. No, we've realized he's having a seizure, but he's fine. So anyway, he had a small growth in the brain, putting pressure. Long story, but I think I would like to have gone back and changed a few things, and I'd like to be a better role model. So me moving forward, I want to be a role model for youngsters and parents that have a youngster that are at an age where it's like, don't leave out all the fun. Because I mean, if I look back at my matric rage and all those things, I had a proper jaw. And I don't think I would give away any of that for anything, but I would have really liked a bit more kind of direction in just nutrition, better training, strength training, and all that. So, I mean, for me moving forward, I'd love to start doing some more, obviously, this that we're doing, but definitely the rehab side, which I've let go the last couple of weeks for the kids going back to school and whatever excuse I can bring up. But getting that going, and then a bit more like longevity training. So trying to get some more mobility back, fix my back. Still, my back's way better. My elbows are getting better. So a few things, and then things that we're gonna start doing just to make sure that my longevity is there with the pains that I've got and things like that. So a bit more of the doctor side. So I want to understand my body a bit more, and I think getting parents. My goal is to get parents to understand their bodies a bit better, educating them to educate their kids as much as we can. Yeah, so that's my goal, I think.
I like it. I think my goal is very similar. I think you do shift to longevity after sort of 30, 35, 40. You start looking at longevity because any athletic aspirations are kind of out the window by this time, and you focus more on your career, which is not a bad thing at all. But I think I would love to develop a persona, or at least a aspect of my career, which is the mentor that I wish I had had from the start. I think that men have a responsibility to the next generation of men to make sure that we're developing healthy, masculine, good men who contribute to society in a meaningful way, who look after people who are weaker than them, who look after, I don't, I'm just going to say it, who are willing to look after women in a responsible way and put a good foot forward for society. And that's really what I'm looking at doing. And I think boys specifically understand I'm doing this hard thing now for a payoff later in the physical. You can almost never get a teenage boy to understand this, or even a younger boy, with conceptual ideas. So it's a very nice thing to be able to do to keep myself fit. So, for example, we had the 500-meter row test. The whole school is doing the 500-meter row test, and it's obviously gross. If anyone's done a 500-meter row for time, it's very tough when you get off there. But I make sure I beat all the boys because it's important to me that they're looking up to me and going, okay, I need to listen to what he has to say because he's, in my mind, maybe more of the alpha. And I think keeping yourself strong and healthy into your old age, you're able to have, if I can call it, more clout with the younger generation to say,
here's what you need to do to be strong. If I was a fat, bald doctor now going like, you need to do this to get better, even if what I was saying was right, bang on, no one's going to listen. So understand the responsibility that comes with keeping myself fit and strong and healthy to be able to have the influence on the generation I would like to have the influence on. It doesn't help me at all. Like, not one. Okay, it keeps me fit and healthy, but what I would like to train for is not necessarily for that. It's to be able to leave the world in a better place than I received it in.
Yeah, I think, obviously growing up and like you get told, okay, well, at X amount of age, it's fine to be slightly out of shape and it's acceptable that when you get older, that certain physical things are going to go and it's like you don't have to be able to look this way or be able to do these sort of things. Like, it's all complete rubbish. Like, you obviously are not going to be able to perform the same way you were when you were 20 something, but yeah, at 40, I can still give some 20-olds a good go. I can take them on in a lot of different things. The goal is for me to make that last as long as possible, to make sure that I'm staying, as close to what my physical potential is as I get older. So yeah, it means backing off certain things to maintain the ability to be able to do that. It means still being accountable to make sure that I'm putting in the work on certain aspects. So, there's certain things from a longevity point of view, like, am I holding on to muscle mass? As you get older, your fast twitch muscle fibers start disappearing a little bit quicker than some others. So it's like, am I training to still be explosive? Because I still want to be on the sports field as long as I can, doing what I can do. Making sure that I stay healthy from a cardiovascular point of view, that type of thing, maintaining a good physique as I go through, as I'm in the health and fitness space. And like Ben says, you want to be a leader and have some ground to stand on when you're talking about certain things. And you're always going to get judged by your appearance. So when you step into a room, that's the first thing someone sees. But it's also a sign of respect. Like, if someone walks in and you can see they've got a good physique on them, like, immediately you have, okay, this guy's put in the work. You can't take that away from him, especially as you get older, even more so. Like, that pushes you. It's like, I had a client who had a picture that they redid with his like old friends from like, I don't know how many years ago. And he's like, yeah, he's the only one who's like still in shape. I'm like, yeah, when you get to 40 plus and you still have good shape and whatever, like, you're in the top percentage of people who are like there. Not many people walk around like that. So doing all of that puts you in a space where you get to be a bit of a leader and you've walked those steps and you can, after me for like 20 odd years in that space, yes, doing my daily stuff from a day to day and showing that it can still be done and that you're walking that path, you become an inspiration to other people who can look and you can see those footsteps that you've sort of done and you can teach that back to them. You can show that it's what is possible and then pave the way for others to sort of follow suit. And it's just a matter of like, you don't have to accept old age that like, okay, when you get a certain age, you got to be grounded on the couch. You can still go out and challenge your kids. Like, I know dads that are still training, like, they get the most enjoyment from when they take their 20-year-old son on in something. And that's because it's just like, hey, I'm still showing you that I've got you. So having that ability to do that and going, cool, how do I make that last? Because if I don't have my body, if I'm sitting on an island and I've got all the toys, it's my island or whatever, but I have a sore throat, like, I'm more worried about that sore throat than all the toys I have and whatever I have. Like, if I've got my health, that's wealth. That's what's going to allow me to do the things that I want to do for as long as possible. So yeah, my training is focused on maintaining all of those things where I value what my body's able to sort of do, and taking that journey and taking what I've learned and sharing that with whoever wants to listen.
So I think, yeah, so I think to end it off, I think we've hit on a couple of very cool topics for guys maybe at our age, in your 30s to 40s, to really try and dial in what you want to do. So what I want to just get the guys to do is comment on this podcast of what you think you would have changed. So like, hit us up with what you would have changed, and let's try and see how many guys kind of get onto the same bandwagon as what we are. I like the masculinity thing that you talk about and helping not just like boys look up to us, whatever, but also looking after girls and getting like, I'm still headstrong. I mean, I was brought up away. You let the girl through the door, you open up the door. James at night, okay, guys, go make a pee. James, wait for Emily. And then he gets upset. He'll come back into the room. Like, I'm like, dude, girls first, doesn't matter. And this is just going to go pee, It's a fun thing because then, like, Vicky runs to go pee, then Emily runs, and it's a chase to the door. And James is always, dude, you go in third. Like, it is what it is. So it's a little thing like that I think with you just saying, like, we need to instill that in kids these days and try and be that kind of role model. And then I think, like what you touched on, just being a better role model just for your everyday person to not kind of settle for less. Like, don't just settle. I think it's also coming back to the masculinity thing. I think it's terrible that what I see at the gym, I mean, at Fitbox now, we've got quite a lot more ladies at the gym. It's terrible seeing the guys rock up there with what I call like this little wine belly. Rock up there. First of all, like, it doesn't look good. Like, it's not masculine. Not saying that you have to look like that to do it. But I mean, why must the girls get up in the morning, do their makeup, do their hair, try to look as best as what they can? And we rock up there. I haven't done my hair today, so I look like shit. But like, we just accept that these men can rock up to the gym with his bare belly or just not even train. Like, I bumped into another guy. He's picked up like 10 kilograms since I last saw him. I'm like, oh, you used to do CrossFit. Look at you now. Like, it's not cool. And I actually invited him for a free session. I'm like, dude, come back to the gym, man.
I think there's a big lack. I speak about this a lot, that men are not holding other men accountable anymore. And I think that's the responsibility, because you don't want to be the dick. You don't want to be the guy going like, and then be willing to lose all your friends, but stand for what is right. Speak the truth. If it offends people, good.
And I think we on an honest, like, kind of chat, which is cool. And I think we're going to keep doing it. And I think do it in a nice way as well. Like this guy that I bumped into, he actually did these little gifts for us, these little coasters. But I mean, and he said to me, it's been 2 years since I trained. I'm like, dude, the door's open. Come and train. Just come sort yourself out. It's like, I've been busy. I'm like, cool, I understand that. But put yourself first, you know. Lekker, man. Was there anything else? Good chat.
All good, yeah.
Good chat. I think we can maybe pick some topics out of the training realm, and maybe we've been saying that we're going to have a little bit of a sweat sesh or a sesh like on the floor. Maybe we'll get Tish to come and we actually do some training ourselves. And I think try and, like what you said, like make sure that you're always letting people look up to you. Just, it doesn't matter what you're doing. And I think women can do this as well. Be that mom or be that person that the husband wants to come back and be like, hey man, I'm holding the fort or whatever it is. So it also goes both ways. And then just a little bit of shout outs. I can maybe get some content from it, but let's have all the questions going on to this podcast about training, especially from the girls' side as well. We always want to just make sure the girls are throwing comments so we don't leave the girls out of these conversations. And then that'll be a shout out for this Saturday's live podcast with Gizzy. I think we're super excited to have that.
It's going to be awesome.
And we'll get all the girls' questions. Have you got any questions that you've had coming up this week from the girls?
No, don't tolerate these questions.
Anything that you've had?
No, well, I mean, lots, because Gizzy's been preparing like big time.
Have you been firing the questions away?
Yeah. There's a lot of good topics that are coming up. Let me leave it there.
Yeah, so Gizzy's going to be firing away with all the good things this Saturday. So I'm very excited to see that. And I think we just need to up our game to make sure that we.
She's going to smoke you guys.
I'm excited. All right, guys. Thanks, man.
Cool. Sweet. See you next time.
Cheers, guys.